What's the latest with the Ronald Acuña Jr. injury? How concerned should we and the Atlanta Braves be about this injury? We'll discuss that and also tell you which prospect has the most on the line this spring and headed into the 2024 season. We'll talk about all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta Braves shows or Atlanta shows and Atlanta teams each and every day. Obviously, here at Locked On Braves, we cover your Atlanta Braves each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Over 9,300 subscribers on YouTube. We are on the road to 10K by opening day. You want to help me get there? All you got to do, hit that little thumbs up button on the video you're watching. And if you're listening on the audio version, I'd appreciate a 5-star review. But if you could also jump on over to YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. Make sure you follow us on social media at shortstopball, at LockedOn_Braves. You can check out some of my written work over at bravestoday.com. Lindsay and the staff do a great job over there letting you know every little thing going on with your Atlanta Braves. Thank you so much, my everydayers. Got a lot of us already in here with me live. Ecuadorman of Wolf and Man, Jeffrey Humphreys, reminding everybody to like and subscribe. Appreciate that, Jeffrey. Matt in here are Guinness, Sean Finley, Leland, Brennan Gandy, Chris Fields, Corey McAfee said he's in here able to join live. Thank you so much for that. Mentioned Leland already. Joseph, and Phil. Thank you so much. We got George, DJ in here as well joining me. I'm sure we'll have some others join throughout the podcast here as we do a lot of these live during the off season. You want to join me here live on YouTube, you can do so. Usually start about 9 Central, 10 Eastern. Today, we're going to talk about the Ronald Acuña Jr. injury. Just how concerned should we be? How serious is the injury? Obviously, we're waiting on a little bit more news from his doctor out in LA that will tell us a lot, but I want to touch on that. What could some replacement options be? Also going to tell you which one prospect has the most to lose, most on the line in spring training and early this year. Then we'll get into AJ Smith-Shawver's outing from Monday. It was spectacular. Didn't actually get to see it, so I can't tell you with my own eyes, but just listening on radio and seeing the results, it's got me and a lot of other people pretty excited. So we'll discuss that later in the podcast as well. I want to remind you, though, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers, join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Let's jump into the Ronald Acuña Jr. news because it's the biggest news right now in Braves camp. It's the biggest news in Braves country and really on a national landscape as well. I mean, Ronald Acuña Jr. with what he did last year, I mean, he's a superstar. And we talked about the other day, him starting to do a lot of interviews in English now. I think that is by design for many different reasons, but one is because it just makes him more accessible and easier to market here in the States. So this would be a big blow for not just the Braves, but baseball in my mind to lose one of the most exciting players in the game. But we're not there yet. We're not going quite to that level of things yet. But let's start with the timeline of this injury. Tweaked his knee during a rundown last Thursday, which didn't need to be in, but tweaked his knee during that rundown. Was supposed to play on Friday. Was going to be, I believe, his first time playing back-to-back. Told the team that he could play, but was scratched as a precaution for right knee soreness. Got checked by the doctor, but didn't seem like he needed to have an MRI at that point. That was on Friday. However, that initial evaluation led to an MRI that showed irritation in the meniscus. And we're going to get deep into medical and doctor terms here. Not too deep, but apologize if I get some of this wrong. If you are a doctor and want to correct me in the comment section below, please feel free to do so. But after that MRI that showed the irritation, they decided to send him to his doctor in LA, whose name is very difficult to spell. And I butchered Acuña's little brother yesterday, so I'm not even going to try this. But send him back to his doctor in LA who did the ACL surgery to have him just take a look at it. Obviously, he can see the MRI and everything, but just wanted to see him in person. even at that point, when the Braves said they're going to send him out to LA, let his doctor take a look at him, they said Alex Anthopoulos, said still expect him to be back by opening day and ready for opening day. All that leads you to believe Braves and the Braves doctors who have looked at it said they're not concerned. Neither is Miguel Frias. Says, I'm not concerned about Acuña. He always does drama. He'll be fine. And hopefully that's the case. I would love for that to be the case. Ronald himself tweeted on Saturday and said, I'll be back. So clearly pointing to the fact that he's going somewhere, and hopefully he'll be back very, very soon. Right now, as it stands, as I record this on Monday night, we're waiting for further evaluation from the doctor in LA. That meeting, that doctor's visit took place on Monday, should have an update on Tuesday. So by the time you're listening to this on Tuesday, we may have further information that makes some of this discussion moot. But regardless, I don't think it will be, because this is something that could potentially linger on. I'm going to share with you a tweet from Dr. Jesse Morse, I believe, on Twitter. He essentially laid out 4 possibilities. 1, no significant damage to the meniscus, maybe a cortisone shot and return in a few weeks. I validate this because even before I saw this, I asked my wife, who is a physical therapist, what could happen. And that's what she said. Maybe get a steroid shot or something like that and be back in a couple of weeks. That is best case scenario. And from everything we've heard so far, that I believe is the route that we're going. Second option, some sort of damage to the meniscus to where it's maybe a bit more aggravated, no surgery required, but a longer term rehab of maybe 4 to 6 weeks. This also kind of coincides with number 3. If it's a bigger part of the meniscus is aggravated, partially torn, preventing him from playing, then he would need to have surgery, but still might only miss 4 to 6 weeks. But for 2 and 3 is scary for me because we could see something reoccurring. It could be something that continues to bother him throughout the season, maybe throughout his career. And look, this may be something he deals with throughout his career anyway, which is why I think it's important that we talk about it now. And then the 4th option, which is the worst outcome of all, a large part of the meniscus is unstable and they'd have to completely repair the meniscus. This would likely cost him almost all of 2024, perhaps even the postseason as well. Chance maybe he could be back at the end of the regular season and postseason. That is not what we want. And again, that's probably not what we're thinking about. That's probably not what it's going to be. It's, again, from everything we've heard, scenario 1 seems the most likely. Ronald saying he could play that Friday. It's obviously not bothering him. He's not walking with any type of limp of anything, although I've seen people say they've had ACL injuries and they could walk just fine, and it was still pretty bad underneath there. But I'm choosing to be optimistic, and I'm hoping it's going to be number 1. But I think it's worth talking about, because if this is a lingering problem, and I see Laves in the comments saying Miggy also had chronic knee pain on his right knee. This is just, I worry it's something he's going to struggle with for the rest of his career. And then if so, is it something that he can learn to play through? Look, Chipper Jones obviously had a very devastating knee injury at the beginning of his career and was able to battle through that and play many seasons, had a Hall of Fame career. Not to get on Acuña or anything like the viewer was saying earlier, but he can sometimes, maybe seems like he doesn't have a high tolerance for pain. Can he learn to play through that? If this is something that's just going to bother him and he's going to have to learn how to deal with it and play through it, can he do that? And if so, can he still be as effective? And for how long can he be that effective? Maybe it cuts down on his running ability. Maybe it cuts down on his defensive ability in right field, but maybe he still hits 280, 300 with 30 to 40 home runs a year. Still a really good player, but maybe it takes him away from being that 4 or 5 tool type of player. That's what we don't know. And that's what we probably won't know for a while. But if this does become a lingering issue and something that continually bothers him, that could be what we're looking at. And this is why, as much as I want the Braves to go ahead and give Acuña a contract for life, make him a Brave for life, It's not a great business move. Not when you have five more years of club control. There's just honestly no reason to even consider extending Acuña right now, unless you're going to get a team-friendly discount, as I said to somebody in the comment section on Friday's video who thought I was being pessimistic about the Braves' chances of signing Acuña. You got 5 more years of team control. A lot can happen between now and then. And if this is a lingering issue that he deals with, do you want to pay a guy 40 plus million a year, which is what he could probably get going into his mid to late 30s? It's just, again, I want Acuña here for life. And if he wants to be here and he wants to take a team-friendly deal, sign me up today. But there's just no real reason to do that right now. Now, let's look at this if he does have to miss some time. Moving on from that conversation. If he does have to miss some time, what are the Braves' options? Internally, I think they probably give it a go with Forrest Wall. He got the first start with mostly starters after the Acuña injury. We also saw Jordan Luplow on Monday. He got a start out there. It would likely be a platoon of those two. That would be my guess right now. If Acuña has to miss time, they'll go with some sort of combination of Wall and Jordan Luplow in the outfield. You also have Eli White and JP Martinez. I think it would be some platoon combination of those guys. Obviously Luplow and White being right-handed, Wall and Martinez being left-handed. I think the front runners for that are Wall and Luplow, even though I know White's had a really good spring training. I've always thought Luplow was the guy from the beginning. So that's internally what the Braves could do. Now, it's been a slow free agency and a slow offseason. And I see Andrew Heater asking, where is Adam Duvall? He's out there. He is an option. So is Eddie Rosario, who I saw somebody in the chat mention earlier. And I see Brian Willett saying Tommy Pham. He is out there. So is Robbie Grossman. So is AJ Pollock. There are still some pretty solid outfielders available on the free agent market that the Braves could go get. Now, the problem with this, and as our friend Lindsey Crosby wrote over on Braves Today and tweeted out, the Braves are really close to that third luxury tax threshold. Even signing one of these guys may put them over it or really close to it, preventing them from making any type of midseason move. So I don't know if the Braves are willing to do that. Obviously, I think if push comes to shove, I think Alex Anthopoulos would go all in. But if he's just going to miss, let's say he's not ready until mid-April. Let's say he's not ready until mid-May. The Braves can survive with Forrest Wall and Jordan Luplow with the rest of their lineup, assuming everybody else stays healthy. You don't have to rush out and get one of these free agent options. What I like for them to, even if Acuña is fine, yeah, I'd love to get some more proven veteran depth on the bench. I'd love to go get one of those guys. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, like some people may think. So, but those are the options internally and externally that the Braves could go to. But again, we'll know a lot more Tuesday morning once we get those results back from his doctor's visit out west. But my concern level, I'd probably put it, for this season, I'd probably put it at a 4, with 10 being just completely distraught and sad and crying. I'd probably put my concern level at a 4. I think I'm not concerned for right now that he's going to miss a lot of time. I am pretty sure it's going to be scenario 1 where he just misses a couple of weeks. They let him rest up and he gets back out there and there's a good chance that he's fine. My concern comes with the future. Does this continue to be something that lingers, that continues to creep up? Every time he has a play where he has to cut on that knee, do we have to be holding our breath thinking, is this it? That's more of my concern. It's not necessarily about this instance, but future instances. How much does this pop up throughout his career? How much does it hamper him in the future from being that special talent that he is? So that's where some of my concern comes in. All right, next we're going to shift gears, go to our Minors Monday segment. I'm going to talk about the one prospect that has the most on the line this spring and going into the 2024 season. We'll discuss all of that here next. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers, you can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet it all on your favorite NBA players with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. You can use their app, which is super user-friendly and easy to use, or head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot. You're not into the NBA. I get it. I'm not either. You're ready for baseball season like me. They got those lines over there as well. Look, you can get in on spring training action if you want to. They also have your World Series favorites, division favorites. They even have odds on players to get the first two buys in the postseason. They got over/under totals on wins, single season home run totals for home runs for players like Ronald Acuña Jr. They got it all over there on FanDuel.com. Be interested to see if they move the needle on Ronald Acuña Jr. a little bit, or how some of those lines move with the Braves with this news. You can see all that over on FanDuel.com/lockedon. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Looking ahead this week on the podcast, tomorrow we'll look at the weaknesses of this Braves team, and then followed by looking at its weaknesses on Wednesday's podcast. So be on the lookout for that. Come join me live, like I said, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. Let's jump into this conversation, though, our Minors Monday segment. I want to talk about the prospect who I think has the most on the line this year, and that is 25-year-old, soon to be 26-year-old, left-handed pitcher Dylan Dodd. And I was set up to talk about this, and then he got optioned to Gwinnett, but I think it still holds true because I think he may still get some time in spring training, but this, remains going into the season as well. Look, the lefty was highly impressive in 2022. He had a 3.36 ERA, a 1.17 whip, a walk per nine of 2, which is very, very good, a 9.7 K per nine across 3 levels, mostly at high A and double A. Got a little bit of time at triple A, and then he dazzled last spring training, allowing just 3 runs on 15 hits, 4 walks over 18 innings with 20 strikeouts. That led to him getting a start on the opening day rotation, or being part of the opening day rotation, thanks to some injuries as well. And then in his big league debut, he allowed just 1 run on 6 hits with no walks over 5 innings against the St. Louis Cardinals with 3 strikeouts. Look, as much issues that the St. Louis Cardinals had last year, that offense was still really, really good, and Dylan Dodd held them to just 1 run over 5 innings. And then it was pretty much downhill from there for Dylan Dodd last year. He did get a quality start against the Marlins on May 4th, but it was the Marlins. But in his 4 final big league starts that he had last year, he allowed at least 4 earned runs in each of them. And it was perhaps even worse at Gwinnett. In April, he had a 4.91 ERA in Gwinnett, 10.57 in May, 8.38 in June, and then they shut him down for a little while. Tried to give him a reset, and things were a little bit better after he came back. In August, he had a 4.44 ERA. He had a 4-start stretch in August of going at least 5 1/3 innings, and he gave up 2 earned or less in 3 of those 4 starts. So you did see some improvement. And then in September rather, just 1 earned run and 8 2/3 innings across 2 starts. So kind of toned him back, didn't go as deep in those starts, but was highly effective. So you did see him make some improvements down the stretch last year. Didn't quite carry over into the AFL, where he had a 6.16 ERA and a 1.526 whip over 19 innings. But still, I go with what we saw in Gwinnett down the stretch more than I do AFL numbers, where they're probably just trying to get him some more innings because of the time he missed in July. I'm also going to give him a little bit of a mulligan. In April, May, June, and September of last year, he made starts for both Atlanta and Gwinnett. I am very much a believer that the going back and forth is not great for a pitcher, especially a young pitcher who, hasn't had enough time up to really establish himself. Obviously, establish yourself, you're probably not going to go back down, but I don't feel like the yo-yo of pitchers is great. And obviously it wasn't very effective for him. August was the only month last year outside of July where, like I said, he got shut down, where he stayed in one place. And he was really good that month. As I mentioned, he had that good 4-start stretch. I think if we can see Dylan Dodd kind of improve on that, take some steps forward, hopefully we see him get back. There was possible mid-rotation upside for him. I think a lot of people thought that, maybe even myself as well, going into last year. But he's probably more of a 4th, 5th starter. And look, I would love to see him get back to that this year. But here's why 2024 is so important. We saw the Braves move a lot of starting pitching depth this past offseason, including former first-round pick Jared Schuster, who, like Dodd, found himself on the opening day rotation last year. But they chose to hang on to Dylan Dodd, and I'm hopeful that means they see something in him to help him turn things around. But he's got a flush 2023, prove again that he can be trusted. And it starts in spring, and he had a really good start to his spring. 2 perfect innings and an outing on February 29th, but he started in a split squad game, had 2 strikeouts against the Rays lineup that had some regulars in there. That's promising. That is very promising. You want to see more of that. But at this point, especially with him getting option, you have to believe he has fallen down the pecking order in the Braves rotation depth pretty far. You look at the 5th starter battle, which most likely going to be Lopez, and then you have Bryce Elder, AJ Smith-Shawver, who we're going to talk about, I think has worked his way up there. Darius Vines, even who also got optioned on Monday, and then maybe Dylan Dodd. And I think you could possibly put Hurston Waldrop and maybe even Alan Winans ahead of Dylan Dodd right now. It's a big season for Dylan Dodd because he has to earn that trust back. He has to earn the trust back of the Braves that they can rely on him to come up and give them some quality innings at the big league level, because he's probably going to be called upon at some point. So what changes do I need to see? Typically with young arms, you worry about them not throwing enough strikes. For Dodd, I think sometimes he throws too many strikes, especially when ahead in the count. He's got to do a better job of nibbling on the edges a little bit more. Every pitch got smashed last year, so I don't really know to tell him which pitch he needs to focus on more or throw more. Batters hit 333 or better on all 4 of his pitches last year. I think that slider and that changeup combination is kind of what got him up to the big leagues. He's got to do a better job of locating those and knowing when to throw them for strikes and knowing when to nibble on the plate a little bit with those pitches, keep hitters off balance, and get the changeup down. Looking at the heat map of his changeups last year, a lot were up in the zone. Now, he only gave up 1 home run on the changeup, but batters slugged .516 against that pitch. Got to do a better job of getting that pitch down, and that will help him, obviously, with that fastball up and that slider running away, down and away from righties. So really just need to see him more confident, need to see him get back to that pre-2023 version of Dylan Dodd. All right, next we'll take a look at the MLB Pipeline Top 30. We'll talk about AJ Smith-Shawver's big outing on Monday and the news of the day in Braves camp. We'll discuss all of that here next. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event, and you don't with the Gametime app. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, view from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. I can attest to this. I used the Gametime app for the couple of Braves games I went to last year, and it was certainly peace of mind. Even buying tickets up to the very last minute, you can do that over on Gametime. You get the view from your seat, which never buy a seat anymore to a game without knowing what my view is going to look like. They also have their all-in prices, which shows you the total up front, which I absolutely love and appreciate. And again, you can buy tickets quickly at last minute. You can buy tickets in 2 taps. Plus, they have the Gametime guarantee, which means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. MLB Pipeline released their top 30 prospect list on a Monday. Talked about Dylan Dodd. They had him ranked 15th, which is actually higher than they had him to in the 2023 season, which is interesting. Most people kind of out on Dylan Dodd at this point. The rest of the top 15, they had AJ Smith-Shawver and Hurston Waldrop 1, 2. I obviously had Waldrop 1 and Shawver 2. And then they had Schwellenbach and J.R. Ritchie. I had those two flipped as well. Then they got Owen Murphy, Nacho Alvarez, newly signed international prospect Jose Perdomo, Cade Keeler, who they and other people seem to be higher on than me, so I hope other people are right. Luis Quinipa, Drew Hackenberg, Drake Baldwin. A little low for Baldwin. I see most people have him higher. We'll talk about him in a second as well. David McCabe, Giancarlo Solara, who they have him lower than a lot of other people in the industry who are very high on them. I retweeted a video of Lara on Monday. He looks really, really good. I'm really excited about the season he could have. And then they had Darius Vines at 14. They had Sabine Ceballos at 18, somebody that I like. He doesn't deserve to be any much higher than that right now, but I'm really excited about what he could be. Ambioris Tavares drops to 21. I want to root for Ambioris Tavares so badly. And just these small viewings I have of him, he is my defensive darling at shortstop. I really love watching him play shortstop, but he can't have a 40% strikeout rate. But if he can get that, improve there, I'm really excited for what Tavares could be. Now might be the time to buy in on him. At Isaiah Drake at 22, and Mario Baez sneaks in at 30. He's one of my sneaky prospects to watch as well in the Braves system. Let's get to the action on Monday, because you had AJ Smith-Shawver, MLB Pipeline's number one prospect for the Braves, dealing. And you could see why they are so high on him and many others. 5 strikeouts and 10 batters faced. Had a walk and a hit give up in there as well, but didn't allow any runs. Touched 99 in the outing. Again, I know he can throw that hard. Can he throw that hard deep into outings? And I believe in that third inning, I heard on the radio, was listening, I think he was touching 96, 97. So that's really good to hear. This changeup that he's throwing, all but one of his strikeouts so far in spring training have been on this changeup. They were talking about it on the broadcast. I don't know if that's something, and I can't wait to hear somebody kind of ask him and talk to him about it. Is that something that he is focused on this offseason? Because clearly it is a pitch that he's throwing a lot more right now. And it's a pitch, I said it in his last outing, I thought it was the best secondary pitch that he threw. And it continues to be devastating. 4 of his 5 strikeouts on Monday came on that changeup. If he can get that going, and the fastball, we know what it can be, and that slider is as good as it's been in the past, I mean, we're looking at a really potential top of the rotation arm here with AJ Smith-Shawver. Is he the next man up? I mean, he's gotten 2 starts now in spring training. Again, if Lopez wins that job, and maybe Smith-Shawver comes in and earns it. But if he doesn't, is he the next man up if somebody gets injured or if Lopez just doesn't cut it as a 5th starter? The way that AJ Smith-Shawver is pitching right now, again, he still needs to work on command, clean up some things, especially that curveball, which I saw he got a couple of whiffs on that curveball on Monday, which is good to see. But he could be the next man up. Dylan Lee gave up a couple of homers. Not great there. Talked about Drake Baldwin. He caught AJ Smith-Shawver, started the game on Monday. And according to David O'Brien, The Athletic, he seems to be impressing the coaching staff with his arm and game calling, which love to see that. We know what he can do with the bat, but in my mind, if he can come around defensively, I mean, he could be the replacement for Travis d'Arnaud starting next year. Again, I don't know if he'll be a full-time starter, maybe at some point in the future, but Braves could be looking for that second catcher next year if Travis d'Arnaud doesn't come back, and it could be Drake Baldwin, or he'll go the route of Shea Langoliers and William Contreras, and they'll trade him off in a big move somewhere else. But either way, good to hear on Drake Baldwin that not only has the bat, but he's coming around on the defense as well behind the plate. Update on Huascar Ynoa. Felt some soreness early in camp. Braves gave him some rest. He's now playing long toss. Could throw off a mound soon. Mentioned the Braves optioned Ian Anderson, Dylan Dodd, Daysville Hernandez, Darius Vines, and Alan Winans, all to Gwinnett. I don't think we got to see Winans in spring training at all. All of those guys will likely throw some more innings in big league spring training, but kind of for formality for now, they are optioned to Gwinnett. Also reassigned were Ben Bowden, Tommy Doyle, and Tyler Tolvey to minor league camp. News around baseball, Josh Donaldson retires. What a fun year we had with him in Atlanta, and boy, am I thankful that AA did not bring him back. Things kind of went downhill for him after that, but it was a great year for Josh Donaldson in Atlanta. Zach Wheeler gets a 3-year extension with the Phillies for $126 million. That's a $42 million AAV for Zach Wheeler. So take him off the free agent pool this upcoming offseason. And as Sean Finley said, we are Deion Sanders days away from opening day. We're 24 days away. A lot of interesting names have worn this number, so bear with me as I rattle them off. Braden Shoemaker wore it last year. William Contreras the 2 years before that. Adeiny Hechavarria, somebody that I really like to watch play because I love watching defense. Kurt Suzuki, somebody else I really loved. Kelly Johnson, Adonis Garcia, Evan Gattis, Michael Bourne, Nate McClouse. Some people don't like to remember that one. Jordan Schaefer, top prospect for the Braves, didn't quite pan out. Mark Teixeira, Martin Prado, one of my favorite Braves of all time. Wilson Betterment, Marcus Giles, Brett Boone, Jermaine Dye, and yes, Deion Sanders. Prime wore that number as well. So a lot of fun Braves names who wore the number 24. But yes, we are just 24 days away. Interesting enough, going back to Deion, who wore it from 91 to 1994, only Wilson Betterment has worn the number more than 2 consecutive seasons. So again, a lot of fun players have worn that number, but not many of them stick around very long. So we'll see who gets that number in 2024. But we are, yes, just 24 days away from opening day. All right, again, tomorrow we will look at the weaknesses of this Atlanta Braves team. If there are any, let me know. What do you see as the weaknesses and strengths of this team? We'll talk about the strengths on Wednesday. I want to remind you again that Locked On's launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now you can also get it on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you so much if you made it with me here till the end. I see the Dixon Way, Tina Churchwell, Leland in here still, Brian Willits, Nicholas C., Miguel Live S. as well in here, Jeffrey Humphreys, Sean Finley, as I mentioned earlier. Thank you so much for hanging in here with me, Alan Daniel. Thank you as well, Andrew Heater. Thank you so much for joining me here live. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube if you haven't already. Road to 10K by opening day. Please help me get there. Hit that thumbs up button. If you're listening on audio, make sure you leave me a 5-star review. Make sure you follow on social media at shortstopball, at @LockedOn_Braves, and we will talk to you next time.